Israeli cabinet ministers have just voted in favor of establishing a national guard in Israel, meeting a key demand of far-right leader Itamar Ben Gvir. This coming after ministers voted in favor of a major budget cut across all ministries in order to fund the move. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu last week promised the national security minister that he would bring the issue to a vote today. In exchange, Ben Gvir will stay in the right-wing government despite his opposition to the pause Netanyahu announced over the judicial reform process during the Passover holiday period. Now, Israeli media is reporting that several cabinet ministers voiced opposition to the move but still voted in favor. The National Guard is expected to cost 1 billion shekels. Critics say it's tantamount to giving the far-right leader his own private militia. So for more details, our senior diplomatic correspondent Owen Alterman is here to look at the details. 2,000 strong is how many people involved in this unit. It's going to cost 1 billion shekels. That's a staggering amount. The question is, does the country need it, Owen?
Right, and the question is, will the country actually have it at the end of the day? Benita, you're right. 1 billion shekels is a lot of money. 1.5% of the budget, that's the amount that was cut across the board and cuts to virtually all ministries. Really striking. But of course the question is, will Itamar Ben Gvir actually have personal command over this force the way that has been reported? If you look at the fine print of the cabinet decision, this essentially goes to a committee. Who is on that committee? Well, Benita, representatives of the Defense Ministry, the Shin Bet Security Service, the police, the military, the National Security Council, none of whom one can expect will be all that enthusiastic about putting Itamar Ben Gvir personally in control of the force. This committee is supposed to meet within 90 days. Ben Gvir is supposed to take those recommendations that he approves of and bring those to the cabinet for the cabinet's approval. But again, even if he gets to filter which recommendations to bring, it's not clear that he'll have any recommendation that he likes coming out of this. Certainly not on the question of who is in charge, which of course is the central question, at least in the Israeli public debate on this. So while there has been so much reporting that Ben Gvir will have personal control over this, not at all clear that this is going to happen. And if it doesn't, what will this force look like on the other side? Will it actually come into being? Big questions. If you ask me, Benita, I think this was a big political bluff, if you will, from both Netanyahu and Ben Gvir. For Itamar Ben Gvir, in that fateful day last Monday when the decision was being made about what to do with the legislation, this was Ben Gvir's way of climbing down from the tree to be able to go out to his supporters and say, listen, I got Netanyahu, Prime Minister Netanyahu, to concede to form this National Guard. And for Netanyahu, it was a way to make Ben Gvir happy, while I suspect both of them understood exactly what was going to be approved at this cabinet meeting 6 days later. And then 90 days from now, 3 months from now, Ben Gvir will be able to make a decision whether he wants to use this as a point to blow up the government, to leave the government, or if he wants to let this slide, let someone else take control of the force, or somehow let it not be established. At any rate, 3 months from now, the political picture, of course, may be entirely different, and Ben Gvir now has that option on the table, but Benita, not more than that.
The idea of forming the National Guard, though, Owen, actually was floated way back in the time of Naftali Bennett when he was the Prime Minister. So the outcry right now, is it specifically about Itamar Ben Gvir as opposed to the concept of the country potentially needing this National Guard?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, certainly many countries have National Guards. This one would seem to be a bit different from the U.S. the National Guards in U.S. states, for example, but still is an idea of being able to expand the capacity of the Israeli police, work under different terms, and handle specific emergencies, which is on paper what this force is supposed to do. I think may have a lot to be said for it. Again, of course, the question is, will it be under a more professional command such as that as the police, or a more, should we say, unpredictable command of being under the command of a politician like Ben Gvir, particularly a politician of the ideological stripe that Ben Gvir has, that is not necessarily one that represents the Israeli mainstream. That has been the bigger controversy over the course of the last number of days. But again, looking at what the government actually approved, not clear that that's going to happen.